This one is, I think, the most ludicrous. I'm sorry. This is the idea that the Christians, his followers, in their grief-strickenness, they were sincere, but they were sincerely wrong. They sincerely imagined that they saw Jesus alive again. It was all just a hallucination. Problem with this, even though they're grief-stricken, a lot of them are still thinking logically. Thomas says plainly, right? Until I can touch him, I'm not going to believe. He might be emotionally compromised in his grief a little, but he hasn't stopped thinking logically. He's like, yeah, usually dead people don't get up from the grave. Until I can see him and touch the wounds myself, I will not believe. That's not the opinion of someone who's going into a complete emotional breakdown. It's just a normal person. Most of you in here would probably have the exact same reaction. I like how Lee Strobel has this really great quote. Lee Strobel said, I went to a psychologist friend of mine and said, hey, if 500 people claimed to see Jesus alive after he died, it was just a hallucination, right? And he said, hallucinations are individual events. If 500 people all have the same hallucination, well, that's a bigger miracle than the resurrection. Here are the problems, and boy, do they come quickly. First of all, group hallucinations are incredibly rare. And they are usually one-time only events. And by groups, let me be clear about this. I mean like 5 or 6 people. Oh, we all saw a UFO. We all hallucinated a UFO or whatever. And then you actually start questioning them individually. Well, it was orange and circular shape. No, it was actually yellow and it looked like a cigar. Like you actually start talking to them and they all agree on what they saw, but they don't agree on what it looked like. So when I say group hallucination, it's more like group hysteria. However, you have 500 people who saw Jesus all at the exact same time. And guess what? They all saw the exact same thing, him alive. And many of those people were alive when the New Testament was getting written. If there was a problem, someone would have said something. And Jesus appears not just once, he appears on 8 different occasions to various groups of people. Most importantly, even if they were just hallucinating, again, it always comes back to the empty tomb. Where's the body? If he's just a figment of their imagination, then his corpse is still in the tomb. And the Romans and the Jews would have pointed this out to them and would have laughed at them and called them crazy. You're a bunch of mad, crazy fools. You think apparitions are real physical people. And yet they don't. Why? Because they weren't hallucinating. And most importantly, what do you do with what do you do with Paul and what do you do with James? They're not Jesus lovers. They're Jesus haters. They're glad he's dead. And yet, when he appears to them alive, it changes them forever. In fact, they die believing he rose from the grave. And one day, they too will rise from the grave. Okay? So, yeah, his followers hallucinate. His enemies aren't going to hallucinate him alive. I'm sure James had enough inferiority complexes about his brother. Okay? Why can't you be like your brother Jesus? He never gets in trouble at school. He always does the dishes. He always takes out the trash. His teachers always say nice things about him. Why can't you be more like your big brother? Has serious inferiority complex, no doubt. And yet he has a total change of heart. Why? Because he saw Christ risen.